leave it there.
Okay. All right, and everyone can still see it that's viewing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
All right, we got some more people coming in line. Again, you all, welcome to Girl Take Off Your Cape, sponsored by Avail Outpatient Counseling and ECA Nonprofit. Please take the time to visit and share information with us on availcounseling.com and ecanonprofit.com. We are so excited to have our special guest, Carmen, in the house. Yes, with talking about my body, my say. So I'm so excited about that. And Tangi Augustin will actually tell us a little bit. I dare not to butcher it up, you all, of the reason why that we are in this space. She talks about the Superwoman Syndrome and why this is so needed that we share this space together as women to help empower each other. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Tangi.
Okay, yes. So we've been at this thing for about 2 years now. Girl, take off your cape. And the reason being is we recognize and see within our community, the black community, black women, we've always been the matriarchs of our families. We've always prioritized everyone else's needs. However, what we've learned is that in doing so, we've left out ourselves. We've suffered and struggled with abandoning ourselves to take care of other people. And as we're pouring into everyone else, some of the time we've forgotten to pour back into ourselves. And so that's where Superwoman Syndrome can basically manifest, where we experience distress, anxiety, depression, and so much more. And so we started these so that we can take a moment to put down the cape, cape down, crowns up, and hold space with each other to empower one another. So every month we have dynamic, phenomenal women come and share their stories, share their area expertise, share their movement, share their knowledge as a means of us uplifting one another, but also holding space with each other together. This is a part of self care, you all. Those activities that help us maintain good health. And I feel like every time we have a different woman in this space, we learn something new. We take away from something. We network in a different type of way. So, again, we thank you for sharing and holding space with us this evening. Again, this is something we do every month with a different guest speaker, bringing us different knowledge, all to help support, uplift, and empower other women. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Carmen to introduce yourself and get into this.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful today to be in this space. My name is Carmen Davis, also known to a lot of people as Carmen D. And I am the creator of the Mind Your Own Womb movement. And the purpose behind the movement is I suffer with fibroids. And I just wanted to create a space that I felt as though was safe. I could find a lot of information, and I just wanted to also share stories because in this space of me sharing my story with others, I saw that there was a lot of healing and a lot of hope that was given to women as I was being so honest with what happened to me. So I'm gonna give you all a brief story, like what happened to me before I go into my PowerPoint, just so you could kind of get a little better understanding of why I created the movement. So I'm a hairstylist, so anyone that doesn't know. And I was having a lot of pain and I was having a lot of issues. And in the midst of me having, pain and issues, well, both me working, and I also was only 29. I was about to be turned 30 years old. Kept having these sharp pains. It hurt when I was having sexual intercourse. If I stood too long, I was having a lot of hip pains, leg pains. Always felt nauseous. I couldn't figure out why my stomach always looked bloated. My friends would say, "Take a photo, suck your stomach in." I could not suck my stomach in. And I never associated with anything because at the time I only thought fibroids meant heavy bleeding, and I never experienced that. So I never even thought to think that I had fibroids. Fast forward, the pain got worse, so I went to the doctor. In the midst of my appointment, she literally just pushed on my stomach and was like, "Hey, you have." I think she said that she thought I was 7 months pregnant, and I was like, "Actually, I'm not." She was like, "Yes, you are." So she argued with me for 5 to 10 minutes that I was pregnant. She didn't understand, why did I take so long to figure out that I was pregnant? And then I was like, "Yeah, I'm not." So then she finally was like, "Okay, let's do an ultrasound." And then while she was doing ultrasound, she goes, "Okay, well, it's so many fibroids that the thing that we need to do at this very moment is to have an emergency hysterectomy." So let's say, I think that was March 28th, March 29th. She was trying to schedule my hysterectomy April 2nd. And I was like, okay, that's moving really fast. I wanted to know if I had any other options. I was like, because all I'm hearing is that you don't want this Black woman to have any Black children and bring any more Black lives into this world. And I'm not really comfortable with that. You know, the first thing you asked me was, do I have any children? And then for that to be the only option, I just didn't understand that. So I was feeling a little lost. I spoke with my mother. At the time, my mother was a practicing RN, and, she was being super serious and intentional on advocating for me and letting me know, like, what I should be asking, what I shouldn't be asking, and what I should and shouldn't be accepting at that time. So we went and got another opinion. I got the other opinion. I came back to Virginia. At the time, I was living in New York City. Came back to Virginia. My doctor's energy was totally different than the first doctor. It was like, hey, there are fibroids. They aren't as large as the first doctor said. The reason you're in so much pain is because of location, which we will get to later in the PowerPoint. But that's why I was in so much pain, because it was actually in my uterine wall. So when I sat down, that's why it was like hurting and things, like certain positions were bothering me so bad. So then when I went back to my appointment with my first doctor, and my mother went with me. So during my first appointment, they took all of these photos of my uterus just to see, what was really going on, as opposed to what she was assuming and guessing. And she was like, oh, it's not as bad. We don't have to do a hysterectomy. And because you were so nervous, we're going to get you in with the person that teaches everyone how to do these surgeries in the city, et cetera, et cetera. And I know the only reason that I even got that treatment was because the jargon and the language that she was speaking, my mother understood it. So she knew, like, to ask certain questions, say certain things, and those words weren't, like, leaving her in a space of, like, not understanding, because it was definitely going straight over my head. I had no clue what she was talking about. So they did leave some of my fibroids just because of the placement. My mother had said she didn't want them to do anything that would make them take the uterus out and or have to give me a blood transfusion, because that's one of the things that can happen when they're cutting the organs. You can bleed out. And then if they have to give you a blood transfusion and it's too much blood that they have to give you, they then have to then remove the organ. And that was something that my mother just didn't want to happen. And I didn't want to happen either. So with all of that said, I started this movement because in this space, this was 6 years ago, there wasn't a lot of spaces that I found that I saw women of color, especially Black women. There was only like a handful of people, and like majority of them were men. And I wanted to find more spaces where I could actually hear from a woman, like, what did you do? What was your experience like? And, how did you go about it after deciding on whatever you wanted to do? If it was healing holistically, if it was going through surgery, like, how did these things alter life? Or if they didn't, I just wanted to know someone's story as opposed to what the doctor was telling me. So, you all can see this. 1 second. So, basically, like I was saying, I'm the creator of Mind Your Own Womb, and I just wanted to create a safe haven to teach advocacy, share knowledge, and break societal norms in daily conversation focused on womb health. I'm also a full-time apparel activist. That's basically putting emphasis on textured hair to make sure that all Black women are secure and wearing their crowns out loud. So basically, my whole life is like surrounded around making sure that women, especially Black women, are comfortable in their skin. They know that they're not alone, and they're feeling good about whatever their situation is at the time. So basically, the mission statement is your body, your say, starting the conversation the right way. It has become so cliche to question women on when, where, and what to do with their bodies. The Mind Your Own Womb movement was created to provide a safe space where women of color can discuss and share their stories of bias, expectations, stereotypes, infertility, and recovery. I welcome you all to join this journey with me. All allies are welcomed, and we truly appreciate your business and support. And I say business because, as you see, Tangi and I are wearing a shirt today, and that's how I basically started the movement. I wanted to see if this was something that was relatable to everyone, so I wore a shirt. Got so great response. Everyone was all excited about it because everyone's story is totally different, and it resonated with everyone. So mine is my fibroids. Someone else's maybe that they dealt are currently dealing with infertility. Someone else's maybe that they have a lot of children and they're super fertile, and there are people having constant conversations with them as to why they are still creating. Just making sure that everyone knows, like, those topics are sensitive and some of them can be triggering depending on where that woman is in her either infertility or fertility journey. So Black women and womb health issues are the base of this movement, and it is because Black women have more womb health related issues than their counterparts being white women or any other type of women in the world. Black women are misdiagnosed and unheard most times. So, like I said, with my story, I went to the doctor. She told me I was pregnant, and she was very uninterested in hearing anything else. She was literally arguing with me. And a lot of well, not a lot, but the top 3 natural causes, and I learned this at a listening session that I attended in Richmond, Virginia, from Maternal Health. It's the top 3 natural causes for death in Black women in America are cardiac arrest, homicide, and labor and delivery. So for that, I just that was really alarming for me. I felt as though for this to be 2021 now, but at the time it was like 6 years ago, for women to have to feel like, okay, I'm a Black woman, and then if I'm going into labor, like, this is the time we should be excited. But I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of friends. They are like fearful. You know, you already are trying to protect your womb and make sure that you're safe, the baby is safe. But now you have to make sure that baby and mommy make it earthside, because you're unsure if someone is going to listen to you when you say, hey, this is uncomfortable. I feel as though I'm in distress. And etc. Even at that listening session, there was a lot of women that were saying, like, hey, I'm a white woman and this is my 3rd pregnancy, and I felt as though they didn't listen to me somewhat. And I can only imagine if I was a Black woman that was poverty stricken and they felt as though they could just leave me to the wayside, you know, like, and it's a scary thing, and it's something that we all should be discussing more, we all should be advocating more for, and we all should be talking to one another about more, because there's so many people that are still a little bit ignorant to the conversation. So I'm going to share the rest of this PowerPoint. And again, guys, let me know if you can see it, okay? All right. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to go over a few of the symptoms, or like symptoms and womb health issues that a lot of us suffer from. And I know that, like I said, I only knew about heavy bleeding when it came to fibroids. So it's certain things that I kind of want to go over today, just in case you are dealing with some of this stuff currently. You or someone that you know, they'll know how to properly advocate, have the conversation with themselves, friends, family, loved ones, the children underneath us, because a lot of times we all are suffering and we have no clue. We don't know how to link the two. So, like I said, plenty of African American women and Asian women, believe it or not, suffer from fibroids, and it's usually around our reproductive years, which they say start at 24 up to 40. And then it can be so many different things, but the fibroids located here, all the places in which that you can have fibroids. A lot of the ones that I personally had were in the uterine wall, as well as outside of the uterine wall. All of these fibroids are tumors or benign growths, but they none of them are cancerous, but they are growths. So sometimes that is why you see someone that you see that's working out all the time, their stomach may still be protruding. Having a fibroid in your uterine wall can weaken the uterine wall. So if you are a woman that is interested in possibly conceiving, this may cause more of an issue for you. Having fibroids while you are pregnant can also cause issue for you and baby. So at that point, you would be considered high risk. And then a lot of the symptoms, like I said prior, are like a heavy menstrual cycle, pain while you're having sex, pain just from standing, also nausea, headaches. I'm gonna look at my phone because I have a lot of them written down, because I do want people. Lower abdomen pain, lower back pain, and then sometimes you have spotting and constipation, and then a lot of abdominal cramping as well. Endometriosis is also something else that a lot of women suffer from. And it's a disorder in which the tissue that normally lines the uterus grows outside the uterus. So it's abdominal tissue, abnormal abdominal tissue. So this is a time where sometimes you may hear someone saying like they get a pap smear, and usually you can't see it from within, but like if they're having pain while they are doing the pap smear, it could be something like as small as HPV, but it also could be endometriosis or any of the other womb health issues that I will discuss today. And endometriosis has a lot of symptoms that are very similar to fibroids, but I know one that is super different with endometriosis is they have a lot of rectum pain as well as an irregular menstrual cycle. And then I know that a lot of women have super issues with conceiving. So infertility is a really big one with endometriosis. And I know that they have surgeries where you can almost get everything rebuilt. It's called webbing. A lot of times when you have endometriosis, so you have to go inside and like take things apart. I know one of my clients said she basically had to get all her organs like moved around and replaced in order for her to have somewhat of a regular functioning uterus. Okay, and then the next womb-related issue is PCOS. So PCOS is a disorder involving infrequent and irregular or prolonged menstrual periods and often excess male hormones levels. The ovaries develop numerous small collections of fluid and may fail to regularly release eggs. So PCOS also can, I don't know if you've ever seen women with a lot of facial hair or like really, really bad acne. And usually this comes with PCOS. This is one of the symptoms, as well as being overweight will affect your PCOS and your infertility, and being underweight. I just figured that out too as well with the PCOS. If you are underweight, that also can mess with your infertility. So you kind of have to figure out what's a happy balance for your body and your uterus in order for you to procreate. A lot of my friends that were suffering from PCOS, they either had to lose a tremendous amount of weight and stay at that weight for a while before they tried to conceive, and or gain weight and keep that weight on before the body felt as though it was healthy enough to be a vessel and carry that baby full time. A lot of other womb-related issues could just be something as simple as genetics. Something that could be hereditary. Endometriosis is like the evil stepsister to endometriosis, and then it goes hand in hand. It definitely affects fertility. Cysts and ovaries. Sometimes your ovaries may be affected. You may have cysts on your ovaries, some kind of polyps or polyps, and all of these things do affect your fertility. With these things being said, if you aren't having any issues with your womb in that space, focusing more on maternal health and knowing like, okay, are we coming up with a birthing plan? What does that look like for you? Do you want to do it with a birthing center, doulas, midwives? Due to the fact that the estimated national maternal mortality rate in the United States is about 17 per 100,000, but it's about 43 per 100,000 live births for Black women, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when it could be something as simple as a woman just not being listened to. I have a client literally, I think a year ago, she was unable to go to the physician that she wanted to go to, and they had to cut her vertically to like take her baby out, and they just had to staple her stomach back up, because if they wouldn't have closed her up that fast, they were saying that she would have continued to lose blood, which would have possibly led to her and her baby dying. So, yeah. Okay, so I really focus on advocating for yourself and others. So when you go to the doctor, or before you go to the doctor, if you know someone that has possibly went through something you're currently going through, so if that is trying to conceive, if that is currently dealing with fibroids, dealing with endometriosis, wanting to just prepare the womb just to be healthier, because the womb also affects so many other things in our life that we sometimes forget to discuss, especially like with a lot of the doctors pushing removing your removing your uterus via hysterectomy, that affects your orgasms. So something as small as that, and like not knowing that. So maybe having a conversation with someone that already had a hysterectomy and seeing like what does life look like going forward. Having those conversations, asking all of the questions. So asking your physician like, hey, how much is this going to cost? Does my insurance cover this? What does recovery look like for me at this age? Will this fix said issues? If not, should I make lifestyle changes and etc. Also documenting all of your pain symptoms. So you only really, like for me, every time I would go to the doctor the year prior when I knew like I saw my stomach really, really large on my left side, when I would go, they wouldn't see that because the only time that I was seeing that would be during my cycle. So that's super important, like documenting like what time of the month, what time of day, is it just for 1 day, 2 days, weeks, months? Excuse me. That way you can help your physician kind of pinpoint and be more specific on what they possibly think is wrong with you. And then also letting them know that you've done some of your own research and from what you have been told, how you're feeling, you have kind of pinpointed it to this as well. And then again, just sharing your story because there is healing in the story. There is strength in the story. So when I just spoke about lifestyle, if you have any womb health related issues, and even if you just want to make your womb healthier, removing as much soy or having a no soy diet will be amazing. No estrogen dominant food. So any food that is heavy in estrogen, trying to take that out if you're unsure about what that may be. Just going to the internet, figuring out, okay, this is what I usually eat, and Googling and seeing like, is that a food that you should or should not be eating? Because estrogen feeds the womb related issues. Avoiding sugar. So avoiding sugar would also be meaning like avoiding alcohol, and especially no non-natural sugars. So like you could do like a date sugar or an agave, but adding like white sugars and things of that nature would be something that you would want to stay away from. Working out more, of course, and also if you're having like issues with certain womb related issues, fibroids and PCOS, I know for sure some workouts may be uncomfortable, as well as pelvic floor disorder syndrome. Those I know for sure you have to do certain workouts to make sure that you aren't going to be in pain while you're working out. Avoiding caffeine, so probably trying to substitute your coffee for like dandelion root coffee. It's really robust and strong if that's what you're going for, and it's an herbal tea as opposed to something with caffeine. And then, like I said prior to, making sure that you are either gaining weight and or losing weight. So there are also lifestyle practices that can increase the risk of infertility, such as smoking, consuming too much alcohol, mental stress, and poor diet are all known to affect fertility. Excess stresses can affect the functions of the um, hypothalamus gland, which regulates the hormones that tells the ovaries to release eggs. So, which is basically like the same thing that the PCOS said. And also, just being like Black in America, I think sometimes we forget that that alone is a stress in itself, and especially depending on like your environment, where you live, where you work. Do you work in a very high stress career? Is your space high stress? Like, what are you doing to release those stresses? And I think sometimes, like Tangi had mentioned earlier, we forget about ourselves and we put ourselves last. So remembering to like release those stresses, however you can do that. If it's via working out, writing in your journal, meditating, praying, anything of that nature, just remembering like we have to take care of ourselves because we are vessels of life. So even if you're not trying to bring a life into the world, but making sure like you can create still, like you still have space to, love on yourself, mother, your current living children. All right, so some of the womb healing techniques that I know, and it's not all of them, but just some that a lot of women do not discuss and or know about, are castor oil packs. So that would be something where you would get like a flannel cloth or a cloth that doesn't have any toxins added to it, adding castor oil to it, applying the castor oil to your stomach, and then applying heat on top of that. So you can do it with like a heated water bottle, a heating pad, anything of that nature. And the castor oil will help to break up anything that is stagnant, and that can, and if it can be passed, it'll help you pass it. Someone with a fibroid or with endometriosis or PCOS or any of the other things, if it's not as large of a space, it may be way easier for you to do it. That's something that you can do for 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the severity of your womb-related issue. A lot of womb exercises. So this could be Kegels, this could be bridges on the floor, lifting weights and making sure you're lifting them in a space that is welcoming to the womb as opposed to something that's going to strain the womb. Yoga is a really good technique to help heal the womb as well. You can do candle work, crystal works, meditation, Reiki, and then possibly, okay, like I said before, surgery. But surgery should always be like your last result unless it's super needed. And a lot of the surgeries outside of hysterectomies they don't even have to be as invasive. I had a myomectomy, which is abdominal surgery. So I basically have a C-section scar as though I did have a baby because of the placement of mine and the size. I didn't share that with you all, but the size of my fibroids that they removed two. I had four at the time. So I had two that was the size of marbles, one that was the size of a beach ball, and one that was the size of a basketball. So I think they said my uterus was measuring at 37 weeks, which is insane because I know that full-term babies the uterus measures at 40 weeks. So, but there are also other surgeries, like I said. Embolization is something where they just literally send the tube up there. They release a chemical. The chemical helps to shrink and stop supply of blood to the fibroids. Like I said, you can get a non-invasive surgery with endometriosis where you get two little slits or four, depending on the placement of the abnormal tissue, and they can remove that. And these are some surgeries that you don't have to be in the house as long as I was. I was out of commission for about 8 weeks, and it really took my body like about a year to feel 100% normal. One of the really big ones that I know that a lot of people are doing now, and I also know that is offered through Tangi company is the yoni steaming. And this is used for the purpose of vaginal steaming to support the female productive organs by using medical plant properties that the vaginal tissues, around the vaginal tissues, to encourage fertility and reduce hormonal imbalances, menstrual cramps, infection, headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, and much more. And again, like if you have any of the womb-related issues, this for sure will help some healing. And like I know some women have been able to even pass some of their issues and cure them from doing yoni steaming. But again, it would be something like consistency and how often are you doing it. So if it's something that you are doing every day, I know I steam every day now. I was steaming just every now and again, but it has just been like a whole game changer for me to steam as much as I can. So if you or anyone that you know would like to be a part of the Meow Tribe, which is the Mind Your Own Womb Tribe, and or an ally, lead with mindfulness. So I always let everyone know when you are having conversations with women, no matter their race, making sure that the conversation is always led with mindfulness. So I'm a hairstylist, like I said, and when I see women that are pregnant, even if my clients have told me that they're pregnant, I always try my hardest to allow the conversation to be led the way that she wants the conversation to be led. So I always ask her how she's doing. I never ask about baby because things could be going on with the baby, i.e. her baby could be still born and, or she could have miscarried, or she could be super miserable and unhappy about being pregnant. Those things happen as well. Every woman that you see with a baby bump is not thrilled and ecstatic about that pregnancy and or about, having that baby. So we have to remember that us asking about that baby could be something that could be triggering to the mother, and that is not anything that we want to do. We want to lead with mindfulness. Your body, you're safe, starting a conversation the right way, which is basically what I just said, allowing her to lead it. Never ever ask a woman questions about her womb. And I know, like, I say that, and I know everyone's like, it just depends on the space, and it does. But anyone that wants to discuss those conversations in depth, they will. They will allow the space to know, like, yes, it's safe space. I'm comfortable with discussing this because they will lead it. And even if they don't, you'll know your space with that person, and you'll know, like, if that's something that will trigger and harm them or hurt their feelings as opposed to help. Stop projecting your expectations. So I know that this is, especially in our community, the African American Black community, is very, very, very easy for us to start conversations with, like, how old are you? Oh, do you want children? When are you going to have children? Why don't you have any children? And again, for someone that could be triggering. It's not 100% triggering for me, but I've definitely seen people ask those questions and women fall out and start crying because they didn't know, like, maybe they just finished their IVF and they just, miscarried twins. Or another story I know is, someone was showering and miscarried her baby in the shower, and she went and got her hair done, and it's like, oh, you and your husband are going to try to have babies, and, you just never know. So stop projecting your expectations. Again, if that's something that was supposed to be happening or should be happening, it will. And then allow this space to feel safe. So if there is a space where a woman wants to discuss whatever's going on with her womb, let her know that I'm here for you. You are loved. I care for you. And whenever you're ready, it doesn't have to be now or today. I'm here and I'm a listening ear. And then if they want, like, any kind of advice, they'll definitely let you know. They'll ask. Because, my DMs are flooded with, like, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? What should I take out of my diet, etc. And those are the spaces, because I also learned when you let people know, like, hey, maybe you should take dairy out of your diet. Sometimes that feels a little, like, too imposing and like you're stepping on toes. So you just have to allow it to be a space where people are more comfortable and now starting that conversation with you. And it's like, okay, because I've allowed this space to be welcoming, you feel comfortable enough in a space where you're comfortable to start that conversation with me.
Absolutely.
So this kind of wraps up my presentation. If you wanted to, like, talk to me, I do something on my platform called Meow Mix, which is basically I allow women to come on, let me know who they are, what they do, and what Mind Your Own means to them. And then they share their stories of triumph, of loss, of whatever, however Mind Your Own has affected their life. And a lot of them have been getting a lot of great feedback. A lot of people tell me how it has helped them. It's a lot of gems that we dropped that they didn't know about prior, which I'm always just super happy about. If it's just one thing that I even said today, and if it helped you or it put some kind of insight in your current situation, that's just always a plus, because I know for me, I felt super lost when I was going through my stuff, and I just felt like what I was even talking about was kind of not a irrelevant, but people didn't know enough about it. It was just like, okay, I've heard of it, but I don't know what that is. So I don't want anyone else to feel how I felt in those moments, because I felt super lost.
So, does anyone have any questions for Carmen? Feel free to unmute your mic and ask or drop it in the chat. This was really good information, Carmen. And a lot
This
of the
was excellent information. Oh my God, it was. And so because we have just like a good 10-minute window, I want to put out there that if you all have questions, ask. But if you're also in this safe space, remind you we are recorded. However, because we post to share these gems with other women. However, if you feel comfortable, if you would like to share your womb story at this time, I invite you to do so as well. Also, if you have any questions for Carmen. Well, don't cry, you all. Maybe I should have said we should have took it off the recording, right? that you've given us in regards to how we can go about and advocating for ourselves as women. I think that is the biggest thing, is that we don't advocate for ourselves. And you've given us a voice through your Meow Tribe. I said it right? Your Meow Tribe. To give us a voice. So we want to thank you for advocating for us. You get to impact women daily. Probably thousands and thousands and thousands of women you have come across, and you are able to empower them. So we are thankful that you've given us your time. You all, please join Carmen's Meow Tribe. As she said, her space. Carmen, say again, how can they reach out to you?
Yes, so if you are on Instagram or Facebook, it's Mind Your Own Womb, and you can either send me a DM, you can email me at mindyourownwomb@gmail.com. And just, let me know that you're interested either in sharing your story on the platform and or just sending me a message and telling me that you didn't want to maybe share it that way. You just wanted to be more anonymous, that's fine as well. But I just have learned that ever since I started opening up more about my story and the things that I do know, more people have been opening up to me, and I can really tell the difference in their perspective. I can tell the difference in, just like I said, the things that they did and didn't know. And then a lot of women do feel ashamed, right? So you kind of feel like your body is failing you. You feel as though you're failing yourself. It's like, we're raised to be women, you grow up, and then, you meet a man, and then you have children, and it's supposed to be this super easy thing. And it's not always that easy. It doesn't always happen in that space. It doesn't always happen in that the way that it's planned, or at least we thought it was supposed to be planned, or in that order. So to know, okay, sometimes you have to go this route, and maybe you have to adopt, or maybe, I'm just not supposed to bring life in that form, and that's also a hard conversation, because it's one out of 6 women have issues with fertility. And again, that's something that you don't know growing up. So then when you're hit with those hardships, when it's time for you to want to conceive at whatever age you decide to do that. Like I have a client currently, she's 25, and she's been married for 5 years, and her husband cannot have a baby, and they cannot figure out why. But you would never think that a woman that has been trying since she was 20 years old to get pregnant would have issues. You would think that that's something that only a woman that is older will be having issues with her reproductive organs. So even that, and I just know that if the conversation started a little earlier with us all, we would totally view life different, right? So something as simple as the girl that had to sit out when we were in high school. I feel like we all know this girl that didn't go to school during the week or had to get a pass and leave school early because her cycle was just so bad. And, we grow up with just take some Midol, or just take some Tylenol, right, and you'll feel better. And it's like, that girl, it was probably also the woman that is now dealing with endometriosis. Right. She's also the one probably that has fibroids and all the other things that are going on. And it's like, maybe at that age, if we would have started taking stuff out of her diet and trying to see, okay, did she need to consume some more water? Did maybe she need to stop eating, etc.? Maybe she needed to stop eating meat. Who knows? But if you just started playing with that a little bit earlier, maybe it would have been able to get detected. Maybe if we even just had this conversation, you could then go to the doctor and say, listen, I know she's 14, 15, 12, 11, whatever the age is, right? She's this years old, but she's dealing with all of these symptoms. And these symptoms are very reminiscent and look like, etc. Can we figure out if these are things that, are going on with her? So then you can now know how to function, and you're not the person that is 30 years old, still in pain, hating to get your cycle. Right. Painful periods, that's not normal. Right. And then even with us using, sanitary napkins and tampons, and those having chemicals in them, and no one telling you that, there are bleach in them, those help your issue, if you have an issue, be a worse issue. Right. So it's those simple things that no one tells you, right? It's just okay, girl, here goes some maxi pads, here goes some tampons, you get your cycle every month, and you'll be all right. Right. and everything's great. And you're gonna bleed until you don't bleed anymore. That's literally like the conversation. If anyone even has that conversation with you, because I just learned at 36 that a lot of people never even got that conversation. And I'm like, well, I'm grateful that my mom at least put some pads in a Ziploc bag for me and told me it was gonna happen. So that's the goal. The goal is to make sure that anyone underneath us, anyone currently going through something, they don't feel alone and they have some kind of knowledge where when things happen, they are not blinded and they don't feel just sideswiped by life. Because I feel like that's what happens. You're like, okay, this is happening. I'm so confused. I don't know where to start. At least if you know a little bit about something, you can at least know, like, okay, well, I remember someone telling me this. I remember learning about this. So let me dig in deeper to see what this really is, to make sure, like, this is or isn't happening to me, to make sure that I'm okay. Because, like, with anything, and I think that we all forget, like, the womb is where we hold all of our stuff. So if you're happy, your womb is happy. If you're sad, your womb is sad. And it affects all things, like from your mind to your spirit. So womb health is so much bigger than just like being able to conceive. That's why I'm like super passionate about it.
Absolutely. And so one of the things you shared earlier, so I have two daughters I birthed. And I had a doula throughout both of my pregnancies, and that's the best choice I had ever made, one of which is a close friend of mine. And it was really helpful, and having a birth plan, I felt definitely, like you said, advocate for myself, in control. I was up in there with the meditation music. I had the ball. I said I wanted to do it my way. I had the mirror. I watched her come on out, both of them. So it was empowering, and it was powerful in that moment to be able to dictate how that went, especially when both my daughters came out. I said, I don't want y'all to wipe them and do all that stuff, traumatizing my babies. Bring them to me. I'm going to hold them, breathe on them, blow on them, and we're going to do the skin to skin immediately. And I was able to do that. Luckily, I was in a space that people were receptive and followed through with my birthing plan. Both my daughters were born at St. Mary's. I ended up with a good team, I would say. I know that's not everyone's experience, but I definitely had a good team that listened. But I definitely, like you said, advocated from start to finish to make sure that everything was followed through on. The other piece I wanted to mention is you made a good point about just talking now to those behind us. So with having 3 daughters, we talking about puberty. It's funny because today was family life education. They virtual, so they was on there talking about reproductive systems and everything with them today. My 4th grader was telling me all about it. But there's a really good book I want to mention that I did buy for both my daughters, and it's called Celebrate Your Body. It's by Sonia Renee Taylor, and she is the founder of the movement The Body Is Not an Apology. That's been a really good book. We read a chapter every day because one is 13, one's 10. So we in that window, and we're having conversations. So I would say I definitely agree, like you said, Carmen, have those conversations, let them know what's natural, what's to be expected, but really what's also not, and having those conversations. Mom, something looked a little funny or something feeling funny, and being responsive as much as we can to our daughters. Because you're right, some stuff wasn't. I remember TMI trying to put a tampon in, about to kill myself. I remember, like, by myself, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, those are things that, and understanding now sanitary, products, and that they're not out to really help us, you know what I mean? And what we can use and the options that we have. And I'm so happy. And Shanrell has a really good, she just shared with me a really good brand that sells non-toxic, all-natural feminine products too. So I don't know, Shanrell, if you want to put that in the chat. You had just shared one with me earlier this week. But the other piece I want to add too is we dropped in the chat as far as the womb healing techniques. Definitely connect with Avail. We offer crystal healing sessions, Reiki sessions, guided meditation, and one of our big ones that Dr. B, your yoni doctor, specializes in is the yoni steaming. So definitely connect with us about those holistic healing services. And like Carmen said, connect with her if you want to share your story, have a story to tell, or want to refer someone to do so, definitely connect. All of her contact information is on our website under our events. It's also on our post where we marketed tonight's gathering. So definitely check her out. Be sure to follow Mind Your Own Womb. And also, we got to add in here that she get into your head. So be sure to follow. Okay. You changed the name. It was Hair by Carmen D. It's completely Carmen D. Uh, Go ahead and book your appointment, okay?
Oh, she laid some hair, y'all.
Okay. Definitely book your appointment with Carmen. I've been seeing Carmen for years, okay? From the big chop to the little chop to the big hair. Yeah, she can help your hair too. On your head.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. But I did want to piggyback off of one thing that you said, Tangi. I really love the fact that like we all are normalizing a lot of like Western medicine and things that we used to do before, even like doulas and midwives and things of that nature. Because a lot of times, people are like, they don't want to do the birthing plan that isn't in the hospital, or it is in the hospital, but it's not the exact way that we're accustomed to seeing, laying back, pushing your baby out, letting them wipe the baby off, cutting the umbilical cord, like being comfortable and knowing like just because you're not doing it the way that we're taught, right? So it's like a lot of unlearning and relearning. That doesn't mean that it's not okay. Like you literally have to do what you feel like is best for you and your body. You have to do what's best for you and your birthing plan. And I think that that's the part that I love the most about like the movement and the space that we all are in right now and the climate, because it's like you're not the only person discussing it, right? So it's like I'm talking about it, y'all are talking about it, right. So it makes things more common, right? So like, okay, yeah, like your mental could be affected because like even like your libido, like a lot of women with endometriosis and Pcos deal with depression, and you're like, you would never think that the two would have anything to do with your mental space, right? But even then, back, I don't even know, like a few years ago, I never heard so many Black people talk about going to therapy in my life, and I loved it. Like, I'm like, oh, you got to, like, they say it so, like, cliche, like, yeah, girl, so I got a therapist when I'm Wednesday. You're like, okay, this is amazing. Like, I'm so grateful that we're in this space, but it's like, reminding us that, like, we all are, like, these beautiful, magical beings, right? And then you have to continue to cultivate that person and being open, like I said, to whatever it is that you're open and comfortable with, but knowing like the way that we all grew up is not the only way, right. And being comfortable with just exploring some things, as long as it's not all the way out of your comfort zone, but knowing like, okay, a yoni steam is truly just the herbs that you drink, child. Just, it's nothing crazy. No one's killing you. And I'm a whole hairstylist.
I drink our blend, okay?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like the stuff.
Yeah, I drink it, steam with it,
and we smoke it. I'm just saying, we smoke the herbal cigarettes. So I'm just saying.
For instance,
right? It's the same stuff that I use to put in hair. Like I use a lot of lemongrass. I use rosemary. I use so many of the same things that we, like it's okay because they're all the things that are truly meant for the body. We all have healing, like features, and I think that we forget that. So just like I said, just being open. I love this new space. People being all magical and Black and beautiful. So, but that's my gift back. I'm trying to be as purposeful and act in my activism in this life that I was given. So I hope that whatever I said today touched somebody, or left some kind of impact, or just reminded us. Because sometimes some things are just like, okay, I needed a confirmation to get back on whatever I was or wasn't doing. So thank y'all again for the time.
Right. Carmen, this was excellent. Y'all give her a virtual hug and snap and clap and yes. Always a pleasure, Carmen. Thank you so much again for having us. I'm going to say have us because you could be anywhere right now and you are investing your time by giving back to your community. So we definitely love that and thank you for that. And thank you all on the line for investing in your own self-care. Yeah, give yourself a virtual hug because you took this time to log on, right? To be here present for yourself. You could have been anywhere, watching TV, doing whatever, but you showed up for yourself. And so we thank you from Avail and ECA nonprofit about that. Again, this is so dear to me because the Mind Your womb movement, definitely, you all, it has impacted my life, but also too for me being a yoni steam practitioner. I definitely believe in it. I have been doing for a while now, and I love the idea that more women are receptive to holistic approaches such as Reiki and crystal healing and everything. It's an additive, you all. You get what I'm saying? It's a complement to whatever your belief system is, whatever your regimen is. This is a complement and a natural complement to only enhance. We're not saying, I don't say either or, right? But what I do say is use it as a complement. Holistic healing is something that definitely I believe worked, and our ancestors, African ancestors, European ancestors, Asian, Mediterranean, you name it. Everyone can be linked to some form of holistic healing. So if it's our ancestors use the earth to heal our bodies, right? We use the earth to heal our earthly vessels, then I would just say think about that, you all, and be open and receptive to holistic healing practices. I thank you all so much. Tangi, you want to leave us with our last words?
Yeah, so definitely be sure that you're continuing to stay connected with Avail. You're following us on Instagram, you've liked us on Facebook, and you're visiting our website to learn all that we have to offer and book some of your holistic healing sessions. Additionally, again, this is held monthly, so come back and join us June 23rd. We're going to have Sacred Vibes Yoga in the house. We're doing a sound healing session. She's going to do the singing bowl. So we might chat a little bit, but we're going to really get those sound healing vibes going. So definitely join us back in June. Definitely look at the post that I'm going to do to follow up on tonight's event, because that's also going to share all the dates we have. We have guest speakers all the way now until October of this year. And so definitely see what we have to come. And thank you again, Carmen. Definitely stay connected to Carmen. Be sure to follow her pages and connect with her beyond tonight. Okay? Thank you